Hey guys, it is finally official. Chores are not for men. Hallelujah.
Hold up. Not so quick. What you talking about?
It's time to enjoy the rest of my days. And you just do all the household chores.
Anyways, y'all. I am Dr. Latifat. This is my husband, Sheila. And we're the host of The Anchored in Christ, which is where we talk about how to have a home where you're not gonna kill your husband. I'm just joking. But how to have a home and how to create a relationship that is based on biblical truths and based on the amazingness that God has for all of us, both men and women, in our marriage relationship. So let's talk about what we want to address today, because you were excited.
And I still am.
You still are excited about the fact that chores are not for men.
Yes.
You're trying to get jumped by a bunch of women.
Somebody has to say it, guys, right? Really? Come on.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
For the sake of your own safety.
For my own safety.
Let's edit that. Yeah. So okay, so guys, I will say this. We have had the pleasure and honor of walking alongside many couples in their relationships. And I cannot begin to tell you what percentage and how much discomfort and drama is around chores and who does what and who should do what. And it's not just only from my experience. There's data that talks about this whole idea of second shifts for women, where after women have been working all day, doesn't matter what your job is, what you do, how you earn money, and then you come home and there's a second shift, which is probably why more women are tired, exhausted, and have health issues. So that's something we want to talk about today, not necessarily just from a health perspective, but from where is this whole chores business coming from, and how to navigate that without hurting each other.
Exactly.
Verbally.
Yes.
We're not don't do it physically, but verbally, we don't want you hurting each other. So
I think it definitely comes from culture. It's passed down. It's not something that you just wake up one day and you make up. It's actually something you see, you witness, and then it's passed down to you. Sometimes it's not even a sit down talk kind of scenario where they tell you, okay, this is what women do, this is what men do. But on the contrary, it's something that you just behold and you just take on. For me, specifically, my mom would call the girls who, my mom had, 3 girls, 2 girls, 3 boys.
I'm like, 3 girls? I'm missing a number. Missing a sister.
And so my mom would call the girls to the kitchen, cook, I'll show you how to cook and this and that. And the boys would probably go outside, take care of the pavement, take care of the farm, take care of the front porch or front yard. And so that is the expectation that got passed down to me. And that's how I grew up. So yes, it starts from culture.
And I've seen people where maybe the men are more proactive about chores. And I found that it's usually in those people that were taught by their parents that this is it's not for one gender to do this. It is for the home and the household, and responsibilities for us to work together. So you're not passive in your own home, but you're an active participant in your own home.
Correct. I've seen instances where a woman, a man and a woman have all boys, and the boys do not do anything in the kitchen. And another instance where all boys, and the mom calls the boys into the kitchen. So yes, you are right. It again is something that either the parent take the initiative, or they change what they pass down, or they just continue the norm.
One of the things that I've heard frustrating for many women is when it comes to household where their husbands are not taking initiative necessarily. So for example, it's like, why do I have to say or ask that this be done even though it looks undone? If the parents maybe your parents didn't teach you how to be proactive, is this something that can be learned? And I hear this over and over and over again, and it frustrates a lot of women.
And I'll be honest with you, Latifah was the one who taught me how to cook. So so there you go. So I was in my 20s when she actually taught me over the phone how to cook. So you can see that anything can be learned. So you can come in with a culture, and you can unlearn whatever some specific parts of that culture if it's not good for the marriage going forward. So yes, it's you can learn it. You can learn some chores. You can learn to help. And I think one thing that I want to be a little bit careful that women sometimes do is they assume that the husband will see what is needed, and the husband will take the initiative, without realizing that if that man was raised that way, he may actually just sit down and watch you suffer or watch you pass out, and like, that's the norm. They're supposed to do that. And I think this is where communication again comes into play, where the woman may need to have a communication with the husband and say, hey, I know you see me, I know you can help, but you just keep walking away, and then later you want to hug me. It doesn't work that way. And then the husband, sometimes you will be shocked, like, oh, am I supposed to help with the cook, to help with the kids, to take the trash out? I thought I'm just supposed to go out and work and come back home, regardless if the wife goes out as well to work or not.
And I know there are going to be people watching this and going, is this 1909? And you will be surprised, like, this is conversations that we still see a lot of, that is still happening. And I will say that one thing that maybe annoys women is how we use the word help, right? So, most families, in many families, both people are working. The husband's working, the wife maybe is working, earning outside of the home. Maybe they have their own business or employed. And then there's this whole idea of like, help the women, right? And, I know that frustrates a lot of women. And one thing that I found to be more helpful is not thinking about it as helping one person, but instead it's like we're doing the work of the home. Right? We're helping our home be well, as opposed to I'm helping you, which makes it seem like that is still the woman's job or responsibility, even though we've both gone out all day, worked 40 hours, and now we're home, and one person is now relaxing and chilling while the other person is starting their second shift. Yeah.
And I think even for us, Latifah does most of the cooking. And that's a communication that we have. And from time to time, if she's not available, I take on and I will cook, right? But imagine if I did not know how to cook, and she's doing her training or her coaching stuff, and then myself and the kids are waiting for her to finish. Starving we are. And then she comes down and is like, seriously, Sheila, you couldn't put in one or two things together. And I think this is something that is prevalent even in today, in 2024, where the men have this unspoken expectation, and the wives as well are like, okay, the wife may say, I'm not going to tell him about what we're going to eat for dinner, for example, and I'm just going to see if he's going to take the initiative. You'll be surprised. The man will just sit down and say, I'm hungry. And I think this is where
the woman says, sure, stay hungry.
This is where you got to have the communication, because regardless of the culture that is passed down to you, when a man leaves, and I'm going back to Genesis 2:24, when a man leaves his father and mother, to an extent, there are some things that you take, there are some things that you actually depart away from, because you are coming together with this woman and you're becoming one. And you have to literally communicate how you want your marriage to look like. And there are seasons to this. Sometimes seasons do change, and chores will change as well.
Absolutely. And it's sort of like thinking about what are the things that you need to make your household run. Because one of the things we make a mistake of thinking is we're thinking, okay, it's either I do it or he does it. But we also, I think in a lot of times in the American culture, we forget that we can delegate. Like you can delegate the food, you can delegate ordering. As someone that talks about money and intentional spending, it's best to have a plan for how you're going to take care of the food, so that you're not ordering out every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then you have no money for investments, right? But like, what can we delegate? Sometimes it's cheaper to hire a chef or someone that is actually going to cook for you for the whole week than to like order individual takeout, right? That way it's not him or me. So another specific example is I don't like laundry. I don't. Sheila
hates it.
I hate laundry. I hate laundry. Sheila does not mind doing laundry. Maybe likes doing it. I don't know, but it doesn't mind, and that's good enough for me, right?
Yeah.
But I've said, if at any point this is something that you don't want to do, this is going on the list of delegated out. To be delegated out, because time is precious, life is precious. Why would I, what is the actual cost of what it would cost to pay someone to do this?
Correct.
And is that worth pulling my hair out for? And the answer is no, right? So just understanding that it's having these conversations of what is in my zone of genius. Like, I like cooking, I enjoy cooking, I love when people eat the food that I cook, but I'm also really efficient at it, right? If I cook for 2 hours, we're like multiple food, right?
Yes.
She let me make a meal for 2 hours, right? In my opinion, when I'm thinking about time together as a family, high yield time, it's not the highest yield in that regard for us, right? But for you, it may be that we have friends where their husband is the one that's like the better cook, the bigger cook, right? We have families where throwing trash out is someone's designated responsibility. But if they don't do it, does that mean that I cannot do it? The answer is no, because again, we're partnering together to do the household responsibilities, but also being clear that if there's something we hate doing, we can delegate out. Like, don't forget, you can delegate. And I think we assume that it's going to cost a lot, but it may not. It may be paying a high school kid to come do something for you, right? It may be paying someone in the neighborhood that likes to cook to include your food in the meals that they're making, and you pay them. It literally, like, the amount of fights that you would be avoiding,
correct,
the amount of more time away that you could be not wasting because you proactively decided what you are going to delegate, how much money maybe per month you're going to spend on delegating, but also how do we take care of things in the season.
Exactly. And I think that communication piece is so critical, because there's seasons when the wife may stay home or the husband may stay home. And that's when you know that the season has changed. Now it's not both parents working, but one person is staying home. You got to communicate again, the chores, the expectations, where you need help, where you still need someone to come in, a hired hand, someone that can, just do some things around the house. It's amazing how we would have couples hang out, and you hear that subtle complaint about whether it's the trash, whether it's laundry, whether it's even dishes, right? Things like that can upset the party that is doing all that, right? And it boils down to communication, and you're like, do I have to actually communicate that? If you have noticed that your spouse has not taken the initiative once, twice, 3 times, unfortunately, you need to communicate it, because it may be something that is really embedded, and they actually just walk past, not seeing the need. And even when you have chores designated, it doesn't mean you are now bound to that chore. like you said, I take the trash out, and this day maybe I go play soccer. The trash is full, and you're like, well, I'm gonna wait for him to come back to take it. That's something that you can just take the initiative and just say, you know what, even though this is not what I do, I can actually take the initiative and just take the trash out. And I think that's where not only do you have the communication, but you're not bound to the agreement that you have. You can actually help. And this is where you have a servant heart, where you are willing to serve. You're willing to serve your spouse. You're willing to serve your kids. And you are showing them this example. It's amazing. Kids will pick up on this. Kids will grow up with this like we did.
One of the things that I found for women is that we appreciate thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness is something that women, and I can't speak for every woman, but many of the women that I talk to that have frustrations around this, which is many, it's rarely the big things that destroy relationships, guys. It's usually accumulation and compounding of the small things. And one of the things that I've realized is that thoughtfulness is something that women wish that men did more of. So we're like, just for example, the taking trash out on a soccer night, for example. If a guy has been thoughtful it's thinking playing offense as opposed to playing defense, right? So it's like, okay, if I am taking the trash out, if I've decided that it's something that I'm doing to help our relationship, to help our home as a servant, both serving together, it's something that I do. And then on the days that I'm playing soccer, it's just kind to be thoughtful to do it so that it doesn't have to add one more thing that this person is having to do. And I believe that when we are playing offense about those small things without perfection, even on the days where it's not done, the woman is like, and a reasonable person would say, you're normally very thoughtful. I am now going to be thoughtful and help and serve you the same way you've been serving us.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And I love this example in Genesis 18. Father Abraham, he saw these three men. At first, he did not know that they were from the Lord. And he ran to them. He said, okay, guys, come in. Please don't depart. I will host you. I will serve you. And what he did is amazing. He immediately ran back in and told his wife, Sarah, I said, Sarah, you take some flour. You make some bread or cake or what. I will go to the field. I will grab the animal and I will prepare it. And it's amazing that even though it's like just something you can read and just move on, you can see the communication there right away, where he's like, okay, you do that and I'm going to do this. And I think that's what marriage is all about. It's a constant communication where you are always talking. You're always, can you help me with that? Or can you do that while I go do this? And even though, yes, the thoughtfulness is critical, it's really critical because the thoughtfulness is the extra step that actually, from a man's perspective, when we do, it makes the woman just warm up to you naturally. And even more than you're like, oh, so that really touches her, right? And I'll be honest with you, as a man, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because especially when you're not used to it, or to be honest, you just don't want to do it. You just want to do what you agreed on. And I'm guilty of this. And it's something that I have to constantly work on. But again, communication is just essential when it comes to household chores, and you're not bound by what has been agreed upon.
One thing that comes to mind as you're talking about this is many times before, and this is not in every relationship, but in more relationships than not, before people get married, when they're in the dating, the men tend to be playing offense. However, after marriage, it seems like more men tend to be playing defense. I'm curious, is that something you've noticed as well?
Yes.
And how can we... I think it actually does affect the relationship.
I think it's a subtle belief. We talked about this in another podcast recording. It's that subtle belief that, okay, I got her, right? I did the chasing, and now she's mine, and now I sit back as a king. And it's that unspoken culture that is passed down again, where if you don't address it, if you don't bring it to light, and it can actually be prevalent, where it just rules you. For me, again, being honest, I had that same understanding. Oh, I did the chasing. Latifah is married to me. Let me just sit back and have her serve me the way my mom served my dad. And again, there is nothing wrong in serving. But I think that servant heart is both ways, where the wife serves me, or she serves me and I serve her. Imagine when both parties have that, then you can see how the relationship is more enriched. And we also have to respect the cultures that we are in, right? We may read from the culture like I did in Genesis 18, Abraham and Sarah, but that culture may not be the culture today. And so we have to constantly communicate within the culture that we're in, of our home, if both parties are working, the kids, because chores also goes to kids too. You can actually delegate and have the kids start to help. And the last thing I would say is this, where you do not pigeonhole the male kid to do certain chores and then the female kid to do certain chores. I think the wisdom is to sometimes even change it in seasons, where the male kid is doing this season, and then the next season, oh, I'm cooking, right? And it's amazing that when kids grow up that way, then they realize that it's not necessarily the chores, it's the service.
Yeah, it's the skills. And I love that you said king, because if we think about the king that we want to model, it's Christ, right? I think many times people think about a king and they think about the lounging part of what the king does, but they don't remember that the king actually serves people, right? If you look at a kingdom, the king's job is to serve the people of the kingdom. Does not mean they're doing everything, but there's a service that is required. Actually, the king serves first, and then the people also do their work. But if you look at biblically, when we look at Jesus as the king, right? Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. Wow. Jesus was proactive, right? Jesus was proactive. Jesus cared. And I think that's and that's not just for the men only to learn from that. It's for both of us to learn from that, because we're called to be Christians, Christ-like, right? And honoring each other the way that we would want to be honored.
And so, guys, again, it is official. Chores are not for men. To piss her off a little bit, I'll end by saying service. Like, just have a heart of service. And constantly communicate, and you will be amazed that it will no longer be, okay, do I have to do this? Do I have to do that? It's like, how can I serve today? Because if our Savior came, amazing, this blows me away every time. When he said, I came not to be served, but to serve, to give my life as a ransom for many. Imagine when we have that heart, what a marriage we would have.
So it's okay to also end on chores are not for women either. Women for it's for both of us. Yes. It's for both of us. It's for us to share as a heart of service. How can I serve this relationship today? How can I serve? How can I serve? How can I have you rest because you look tired? And how can you have me rest? Imagine if we actually did that, right? And understanding and remembering that you can delegate. You can afford. In fact, you cannot afford to not delegate. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Let us know what do you guys think, and how are you navigating this in your own relationship? If you're listening on YouTube, type on here, let us know. And don't forget to subscribe, by the way, and share this link to other people that you think would be of benefit to.
All right. Great.
See you guys on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye-bye.